Welcome to Sepang. It's great to be back. 37 months ago we were racing here, 2 years off because of the pandemic, and yesterday we relaunched. It's the Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, powered by AWS. We got off to a flying start, plenty happening in the opening race. Looking forward to very much the same, but in a different order. Yesterday's start drivers are the ones who take over in today's 1 hour race, so the grid totally reshuffled, and the racing is going to be thick and fast. This is such a brilliant circuit on which to go racing, but it's very hot and humid. 84% humidity, that is going to hurt. About the same as yesterday actually. Track temperature a little bit cooler than yesterday. That'll be a bit kinder on the tyres, and air temperature down a degree, and every degree certainly helps when you're sitting in a racing cockpit, which can be a hot place to be in a temperate climate, but here in the tropics it is very warm indeed. But the racing action is going to be red hot as well. You can be absolutely sure of that, because yesterday we proved, despite only having 8 cars, we're due to have 24, 25 for round 2 when we head to Japan, but the 8 cars really put up a fantastic show, and we're hoping for the same today. And there was drama really from the start right the way through to the finish 1 hour later, including a problematic pit stop. Now the Ferrari led away from pole. Naoki Yokomitsu is on the left of the screen for Yogibo Racing. Slow away from the outside of the front row, Adrian De Silva, the number 11 EBM Giga Racing Porsche, dropping back from second to fourth or fifth there. Into second place goes Prince Abu Bakr, putting a great show, and trying to go around the outside, the multicoloured Audi of David Punn. Really, really good start. So for Adrian De Silva, it was a case of trying to catch up. Oh, there was the contact. We heard from Adrian later talking about how his steering was a little bit bent out of true, so it was as early as the second corner. But for David Punn, running a little wide, and his teammate Yasser Shahin from the Team X-Works team said, yep, I will be the lead Audi, and the Australian driver going through. David Punn stuck in behind and decided to fight back. Down the start finish straight they go. Classic place to get a slipstreaming move, and you can see towing onto the tail, but unfortunately that damage from the contact also affected the 91 Audi, falling down the order almost to last place at this point. Bit more contact and he was out of the race, so teammate didn't get a go. That was Sean Thong. That was parked up, but some great racing, including between the 2 EBM Giga Racing Porsches. Number 11 Adrian De Silva having to just get out of the way. Setiawan Santoso, the Indonesian racing driver, diving down the inside but too deep into the final corner of the lap, and having to tuck back down behind. But nervous moments for team boss Earl Bamber, not just because he was the team boss, but also because he was taking over one of those cars after the pit stops and wanted it to be in one piece already, with slightly damaged steering from that lap 1 contact. But Adrian De Silva really making amends for that poor start. And then Setiawan Santoso just a little too keen at turn 2, and round he went. That dropped the 8 down the order. Was going to lead to quite a fight back. Then came the pit stop. 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th all came in together, and all really exemplary pit stops. But when the Ferrari came in a few laps later, its lead of more than a dozen seconds was absolutely squandered, because their pit stop was more than a minute slower than it ought to be. Confusion between the front and the rear wheels, and that dropped it back to play. Not so nicely, it must be said, with the AMAC Motorsport Porsche. AMAC, of course, have been running Lamborghinis for years, but getting used to the Porsche, that's slightly lighter with a few little bits of bodywork trimmed away. But Nick Foster took over the 99 888 JMR Mercedes from Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, and street clear. He was chased down by double Le Mans winner Earl Bamber in the number 11 Porsche, but try as he might with that bent steering, he got close, but not quite close enough. 4.5 seconds was the gap between the pair of them at the end. And Reid Harker in the second of the EBM Giga Racing Porsches, the Kiwi, really on a flyer, and he recovered some of the lost ground to move up into that 3rd place. But here's the finish. Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim never won at this level before. Now he has, and better still, did it on home ground. No wonder he was so delighted from the pit wall, because his teammate Nick Foster brought it home, and there was the delight from Prince Jeffrey, giving Nick Foster a hug. That was a really, really good solid run. Can they repeat it today? Well, we will find out. And of course, after the first round of the championship, the winners invariably will be leading the championship. So there they are, Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim and Nick Foster. 25 points for a win, 18 for second, so that was Adrian De Silva and Earl Bamber. But they're not going to be regular competitors in the championship. But Reid Harker and Setiawan Santoso, they took the 15 for 3rd. They'll be gathering throughout the 6-round championship. Naoki Yokomitsu and Shogo Mitsuyama, case of what might have been that dreadfully slow pit stop, really costing them any chance of a podium. But maybe today they'll get it right and they will strike back. Andrew McPherson, Ben Porter delighted with their 5th place in their first run with the Porsche, and Abu Bakr Ibrahim and Jasmine Jafar down in 6th place because unfortunately they had an extra pit stop, but they too could be challenging for the win this afternoon here at Sepang. So it's hot, it's humid, we know that. Track temperature a little down on yesterday. Yesterday our race was several hours later, and that could be a factor for all the drivers. They try and keep their Pirelli tyres sweet throughout the 1 hour of racing action. And the pit stops come between 25 and 35 minutes into this race, and if anyone doesn't make their pit stop in that time, they then start getting penalties. But everyone was behaving very well indeed yesterday. But so this is the first round of the championship, and of course there's a lot to talk about, and one of the real talking points was we have not one but two princes from the Johor royal family. One took victory yesterday, that was Prince Jeffrey, and his younger brother Abu Bakr has also joined the show this year, 2 years into his racing career, and it was really great. We caught up with Prince Jeffrey, and he spoke from the heart about having a brother as a rival and a friend on the grid.
I'm Jeffrey Ibrahim, I'm from Johor, and now we are in Sepang International Circuit, Malaysia. So the drivers for this weekend will be in car 888, Jasman Jafar and my brother Abu Bakr, and alongside me in the car 99 is Nick Foster. It's definitely been a long few weeks, prepping up for Bathurst. It was my first endurance, it's going to be my first endurance race over there, and it's just a lot of preparation coming to that race. We had a test here. After the test here, prepping the cars for Sepang, flew straight to Queensland, and then we did our prep there for Bathurst, went for Bathurst, had our race there, and then on Monday, right after the race, flew back here. And now I'm here in Sepang, and we have another race weekend. So it's been a really long week, but an exciting one. Well, the Sepang circuit is a very technical track. It was made for Formula One, and also it has held a lot of Formula One races a few years ago, and also MotoGP. So it is a really technical track and very tough one also with the weather. Growing up with Boo, of course he's a few years younger than me. I've always been, of course, the older brother. I've taught him a lot. I've taught him how to ride a bike, ride a bicycle, and then also probably to drive, I don't remember. But we've been like really close friends, even though we have an age gap. We get along very well, and I see him like just as a very best friend of mine. Racing with my brother is really fun. I've raced with him a few years ago and had his first race actually here in Sepang, and we had our first win and first podium together here in Sepang. So it's really special, this place, and just to have him across the garage and in the 888 car, it's really fun and really exciting for the season. Racing in my home country, of course, it's special. It's our home race. I've had as I said, my first GTs here, my first GT debut here, and first win even here in Malaysia. So it is really special for us, and especially as the team is growing as a two-team, and to be racing home race with my brother and having a lot of support from family, friends, and then everyone else feels really great. The team is feeling good. We have strong cars, so we still have a lot more work to do. It is quite complex when we talk about plans. So for Boo, it's just to get the experience, and for me, it's just trying to get me to another level as well. And we were really close to the championship last year. This year is much tougher than what it was last year, with having a lot more cars in Australia and a lot more good drivers. So it's going to be tough. It won't be an easy one, but we'll keep on pushing.
So it was great to hear the thoughts of Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim. Will he make it to today? Well, I tell you what, we need to get down to the grid and find out the thoughts of the drivers. So with no further ado, let's get down to Claire Jedrick down on the grid.
Well, hi guys, welcome to the Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia. Yes, it is Claire Jedrick here, and as you can see, it is bustling. Day 2 down at the start-finish line, and man, what a shuffle of results there was yesterday from the starting position. Who will be in the contention today? Will the two Johor Princes be still gunning for a 1-2, or will Adrian De Silva have a better start and keep off the dirt? Well, you better keep your eyes peeled. In the meantime, I'm going to go and see if I can grab Jasman Jafar while I put it back to you, Bruce.
Thanks very much. Hot action down there, so it's very busy at the front of the grid. Jasman Jafar will be starting second on the grid. That's the outside of the front row. His was the car that ended up having an extra pit stop that really scuppered their chances, but I really fancy Abu Bakar and Jasmine could be a real feature in this race. Disappointment for them yesterday, but they can take away the fact that their car was very, very competitive, and the sister car, of course, went on to take victory in the hands of his brother Prince Jeffrey and Nick Foster. Will it be the Mercedes at the front? But certainly those Porsches look very good indeed. So Claire's good to her words. Let's get straight back down with Jasmine Jafar.
All right, back here with Jasmine Jafar in the Mercedes GT3. Jasmine, now yesterday looked like you had a couple of technical difficulties running with Abu, but you were strong. What is it shaping out to be today?
I think we got a good car, we got a good team, and we got a good strategy for today, so I'm very confident.
And I suppose, how is the Prince feeling today in terms of strategy? He's still feeling strong. Like I said, he had a strong drive yesterday. Things were comfortable. Are you able to tell us what was going wrong with the car?
Yeah, we had a little bit of a fuel leak yesterday. You know, it's one of those situations that comes once in a million. But yeah, let's focus on today, and we know we can bounce back stronger.
Okay, perfect. Well, good luck for the race.
Thanks very much, Claire. You could sense the concentration from Jasmine Jafar, the outside the front row. So what's the challenge for the drivers? 1 hour of racing, 15 turns, 5.543 kilometres, but the beauty about the Sepang International Circuit, it has wonderful flow, really good opportunity to overtake into the first turn. And as we saw yesterday, if you get it slightly wrong in turn 1, you can have a go at turn 2. But the two long straights from the penultimate corner, turn 14, up to the final corner, turn 15, lots of passing there, and then again back past the pits and then down to turn 1. It's brilliant. A little bit of gradient change always makes it a great place. But Sepang, it provides plenty of opportunities, but can the drivers stay cool? Of course, that's always the big question. It's a very, very hot working environment, 84% humidity, and at the moment it's air temperature about around 31 degrees, track temperature about 37, slightly cooler than yesterday, but for all the drivers that had things go slightly wrong yesterday, that was weighing on their minds. But for those for whom it ran cleanly, and in fact, talk to any driver, no race ever runs cleanly, but you understand that from the outside it all looks pretty good. But certainly small glitches here and there, and for Jasmine Jafar, whatever went wrong with the 888 Mercedes yesterday, they'll be determined. And as Jasmine said, that was a 1 in a million error or incident, whatever it went wrong, that just cost them. The car brought into the pit garage, not into the pit lane, it swung into the pit garage, it was sorted, went back out. But I must say, looking at the form of the two EBM Giga Racing Porsches, the number 11, which is on pole, and the sister car, which will be starting from 4th on the grid, they look very strong. It could be the story of two battling Porsches against two battling Mercedes. EBM Giga Racing against 888 JMR, but do not forget the Naoki Yokomizo, who'll be taking over the Agibo Racing Ferrari. That's starting towards the tail of the grid, down in 7th place, was very, very good, and at the start of the race he led away from pole position, built a lead of a good dozen seconds before those pit stops. And then that slow pit stop really, really cost them. That too could be in with a real tilt at victory. And will the Audis get to the finish? There's a question. Now, the track temperature has risen very slightly since about 20 minutes ago. Air temperature up, but importantly for the driver, 1 degree lower humidity. But if you're debating, it's gone down to 82% now. Gosh, it's possibly almost implausibly dry, the air out there. I think not. It's a very, very hot place to go racing. Now, just to point out, 1 hour of racing, and at some point between 25 minutes into the race and to the point in which there are 25 minutes to go, i.e. 10 minutes later, the cars must make a pit stop. There is a standard pit stop time that you should not go below, which is 135 seconds or 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And that's a comfortable amount of time for the driver to be extracted from the car and the new one inserted. Now, is the weather going to change? There's a question. Great view of the massive palm trees moving around a little bit, but you know what, the sky is very much like yesterday. There's a little bit of cloud, but it's a bright day here at Sepang, and really, as the grid is stripped bare, that's the point I always like. It's great to see people down on the grid, but I love the moment the cars are revealed. We've got the 8 cars. Now, of course, we are heading off to Japan, and the entry list for the next round of the championship in the middle of July is not 8. It's 3 times that, plus 1 for good behaviour. 25 cars are promised, with GT4s being added to the mix, the sort of slightly less performance cars. We've got 7 of those coming in, a GTC category car as well, but a lot more GT3 cars, and it's all GT3 cars, the fastest cars around the world in GT racing. And we are all set here at Sepang. So, weather is hot, the grid is set, and waiting for the cars to go off on their formation lap. So, all looks wholly set for Sepang Mark II. So the Toyota Supra, great looking car, heads down to the first turn. Earl Bamber moves away from pole. This isn't the start, this is the pre-start. Jazeman Jafar pulls alongside. Nick Foster will be starting third in the second of those 888 JMR racing Mercedes, and alongside Reid Harker, the Kiwi driver who was very impressive in the second half of yesterday's race. So he could be wanting to play come the first corner. And Sean Thong, who'll be starting fifth, didn't get to have a run. He was the only driver not to get a run yesterday because his car, started by David Pun, pulled off before the pit stop window. So expect Sean, the driver from Hong Kong, to really have a tilt as well. So I think all is set for that run to the first corner. But Earl Bamber, using all that experience, isn't in too much of a rush to go round. Let's take a look at the grid. Here it is, Earl Bamber on pole position. That is on the pit wall side of the start-finish straight. Jazeman Jafar alongside in the 888 Mercedes. Then Nick Foster in yesterday's winning car, that's the 99 Mercedes, and Reid Harker in the number 8 EBM Giga Racing Porsche. Sean Thong in the first of the Audis, down in 5th place, and alongside Sandy Stuvik in the 22, the Thai racer also wanting to get into the mix. Then Shogo Mitsuyama and William Porter bring up the rear of the grid. The Yagibo Racing Ferrari that started on pole position for yesterday's race, built a 12 seconds lead, but made a real fumble in the pit stop. Ended up in 5th place, but expect a lot more from that as well. And at the back of the grid, the AMAC Motorsport Porsche, long-time Lamborghinis racers, Andrew McPherson and Ben Porter, and it's Ben who'll be starting. Of course, yesterday's start driver is the second driver today. That's the format of Fanatec GT racing all around the world, a championship that started under the Blancpain title many moons ago now, and it's grown and grown. GT3 is a beautiful formula because the cars look sensational. They're all performance balanced, so each of the manufacturers should have cars that have a chance of victory. And when we head off to Japan, we'll have more than Porsches, Audis, Ferraris and Mercedes. We'll also have McLarens, BMWs, Hondas, Lamborghinis and an Aston Martin Vantage. So really mouth-watering machinery. Championships in Australia, across Europe, in the United States as well, so it's growing all the time, and the very best GT3 drivers can pretty much race every weekend of the year now, and some of them pretty much do. It's a global formula, and it's just so great to be racing back in Asia, 2 years away. And it's not just coming back to Asia, it's coming back to Asia's best circuits. When you've got Sepang, Suzuka, Fuji on the map, the less known but brilliant circuits at Sportsland Sugo and Okayama. You know, these are all great places, and everyone's dying to get down to Indonesia, onto the island of Lombok, to go and experience for the first time for car racing, for international car racing, the new circuit at Mandalika. So we wait for that. But the cars now have come out of turn 14, they're going up to turn 15. This is the back straight, and this is a really important place for lining up a passing move into that final corner. So the stage is set, front row, Earl Bamber, Jazeman Jafar. Jazeman will be absolutely champing at the bit after yesterday, when that extra pit stop really scuppered their chances. But it is looking fantastic. Nick Foster, yesterday's winner, alongside Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, will be lining up third. Reid Harker from fourth. Now, that top four could be very, very tight indeed. And don't discount Sean Thong, because I reckon he's going to be really, really going for it. No points for him yesterday, but all is set. The lights are red. Now, it's another short hold. And who's got the better start? Looks like a good start from Earl Bamber. Both the Mercedes going very well indeed. In fact, Nick Foster trying to get into the mix and trying to go around the outside. Reid Harker's decided that's the place for him to go. 3 abreast for second place, and Reid Harker goes around the outside. Will he make it the long way round? It is a long way round. It's a very long first corner, but it looks well, he's at least got up one position from third to fourth. You can see on the outside line it's the much, much longer one, but Nick Foster in the 99 Mercedes has got into second place. And that means that Jazeman Jafar from the outside of the front row, who's had almost a similar fate yesterday's Adrian De Silva, dropping down from second to fourth position. Sean Thong didn't depose them, but already Shogo Mitsuyama has gained a place in that aquamarine Ferrari, so goes up to 6th place. And that means Sandy Stuvik's being pushed back to 7th, and Ben Porter bringing up the rear. But it's Porsche, Mercedes with an Audi on their tail. Welcome to the commentary box, Claire. Nice and hot down on the grid, but cool in here, isn't it?
Oh, it's great to be back in this aircon little box here. But yes, I mean, exciting stuff there. Unfortunately, it looks like Jazeman Jafar had a bit of a slow start. So I'm a bit disappointed, because I was really looking at them to be a top three, and to really hold that position all the way down, especially with that amount of experience. Yesterday, they were very strong, Abu Ibrahim. And as I asked him, a very vague answer, something about some coolant, some oil, technical difficulties. But yeah, that would probably been enough to set some alarms off to bring the car back and save it for today.
Yeah, no, I mean, he'd been Prince Bakar would have been well aware it's a 2-driver race and a 2-race meeting, so they had to think. But Jasmine was in the zone down there. He was talking to you, but he was only, his mind was just focused on that run to the first corner. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked for him. Maybe the outside the front row is not a good place to start. I don't know, but Adrian De Silva yesterday and today, unfortunately there for Jasmine Jafar, still on some of the timing screens listed in second place, but then that's where they were on the grid. So we can see with our eyes that Earl Bamber is sitting actually quite a tidy lead. But again, when Nick Foster came out of the pits yesterday, he was right on it from the second he left the pit lane, overtook almost immediately, and again, really positive. But he didn't describe his car in glowing terms yesterday. He described the 99 car as not the best one, brought down from China rather than the one brought up from Australia. So he said they were driving around problems, but looking at the way that Earl Bamber has stretched there, 1.7 seconds or as near as between first and second. That's a remarkable first lap. But today, of course, Earl's being spoiled. He's got a car with steering that's pointing straight, whereas yesterday both of the team cars were slightly affected by that.
Yes, that's right. Yesterday, unfortunately, Adrian De Silva with a little bit of a slow start, digging his wheels into the dirt, as well as having contact with the Audi car, and then, of course, the Audi car having to pull out. We haven't got information. Perhaps I can talk to them a little bit later in the pits. We have some time when the window opens for these guys. But yeah, Bamber, I mean, he's out there. He's going to set the pace for Adrian De Silva. Adrian doesn't have to do any starts. He just has to make sure he stays within the regulations and the rules, getting out the pit lane and swapping over from Bamber. So they're looking strong, and he's putting the pace down.
Now, of course, Earl Bamber's car, the number 11 Porsche that's leading this race, is one that's actually down only to compete this weekend. But you know what? If they win, do you think they might stay for the subsequent rounds when we head off to Japan in July? Anyhow, that's a factor besides. Let's just focus on the fact that Earl Bamber's got this lead, 1.691 seconds on the opening lap. Nick Foster up from third on the grid to second place, Reid Harker up from fourth to third, and Jasmine Jafar down to that fourth place. Sean Thong staying right on his tail. In fact, everybody behind Foster is sort of within a second, so it's really, really close. But out front, it's an exemplary performance from the number 11 Porsche driver, Earl Bamber, already on this second lap. He's stretching that advantage a little bit more. There we have them coming onto the back straight, and it's looking very comfortable for the Kiwi leading the way. Aussie in second place, that's Nick Foster, racing under a British licence, I noticed, but maybe that was something during the pandemic when he couldn't go back to Australia, and all travel for international sports people as well as people of an ordinary mean was very restricted. Interesting to see that Sandy Stuvik has made a better second lap than a first lap, and Tyrese has gone, he said from 6th to 7th, he's gone from 7th back to 6th, and then you have Shogo Mitsuyama, and bringing up the rear, Ben Porter, still getting used to that Porsche, but really was making good fist of it yesterday. But Earl Bamber has gone out from 1.7 seconds to nearly 2.4. Wow, it was a fairly massive chunk. He knows what he's doing. Of course, if you look at a driver who's won Le Mans twice, he knows how to keep his tyres sweet. But at the moment, you have to say he's taking more out of his Pirellis in terms of, I just want to build that comfortable cushion.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a comfortable race for him, bar from nothing else happening. I mean, he's going to set that pace. I think he's going to be a little bit lonely, and he's just going to have to watch in the back window just a little bit, because we know Foster's going to be chasing all the way after yesterday. I'm sure Foster was under a lot of pressure to keep it up there, not make any mistake when you have the Earl Bamber right behind you, who's super confident in the Porsche. I mean, he's the Porsche king in this region. And yeah, very interesting though, like you're saying with Harker on the outside, but it looks like they're just settling down now for second, third, and fourth. I can see probably Jafar start picking off on those laps, and perhaps gaining some confidence and a little bit more grip in the next lap or so.
What Nick Foster in second place is going to have to hope for is that number 8 Porsche has to suddenly, the driver, Robert Reid Harker, has to look in his mirror shortly with Jasmine Jafar coming up onto his tail, because at the moment second, third and fourth pretty close. In fact, Jasmine Jafar just a little bit off in fourth place. He's just over a second behind the third place Reid Harker. Looking to the gap back behind him, it's in another 1 and a bit seconds back to Sean Thong in the better of the two Audis. But all along, the gap for the race leader, Earl Bamber, is stretching, nearly 2.4 seconds last time around. It looks though it's grown a little bit more as they come out of turn 14, and certainly he's far enough ahead for nobody in the chasing pack to be in his slipstream gaining from it. So yesterday we had a home victory for Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, but today we're not getting ahead of ourselves. It's only at the end of lap 3. But Adrian De Silva, waiting in the pits, must be thinking, hey, I could have a home win as well.
Well, like I said yesterday, I can never say never with the job done there. But you know what? Looking at Harker and Jafar, they're getting a bit of a toe there you know, Foster's really going to have to either control this, have a defensive line, and because we can expect their Harker to be short up onto Foster there, as you can see on our screens. When the camera just flips a little bit back, we should see him coming around the turn over there, but starting to lose them.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, Bamba has just built another second or so into that lead. 3.4 seconds to good. It's a phenomenal early run. And yes, you could say that Reid Harker in the number 8 Porsche is getting a bit of a tow down the straights from Nick Foster. Oh, in fact, he's much closer off coming out of turn 4 this time around, and through the wonderful sweepers. I do love this section of the circuit. Turns 5 into 6, and then the really tricky little combos, turns 7 and 8. But you almost feel it's a question of when, not if, Reid Harker gets up into second place. But, you know, Nick Foster's been round the block a few times. He's not going to leave the door open. He wasn't too comfortable with the handling of this car yesterday. He worked really hard at 888 JMR last night to try and sort it out. When he described it to me after the race, it's not the sort of word you can put into a commentary, but it wasn't entirely favourable. And I think he described it as being wrong in every single way. But, you know, that was in the heat of, he'd just come off the podium, he was all hot, sweaty.
And
but a race
shocked.
winner. You know, that was the thing.
I think he was very surprised with the results yesterday, and I mean the tables turned very fast. You know, people were kind of dropping off like flies in the grid, and yeah, a lot of technical issues per se. But just going back to Jafar again, you know, I'm quite surprised. He doesn't seem too comfortable. I mean, I guess he's keeping a comfortable pace, but you know, he seems to be a little bit in and out with keeping with Foster and Harker. I don't know if he's just waiting in case something happens and just keeping a little bit off the gas to see if anything happens.
Yeah, well,
but
you know,
we see there, Mitsuyama still on the top speed there, 241 on the traps, 241.6. So he's got some speed. He just doesn't have the pace.
Right. Oh, and a mistake. Unfortunately, Sean Thong has gone wrong. He's gone off our screen. That's at the final corner. Brake too deep. He's deep in the gravel. He was, you know, he was under pressure from Sandy Stuvik, his teammate, and I think took his eye off the ball. Just looking to see where Stuvik was, and you know, when you passed your braking point, where was my braking point?
And you know, and that's a place that always happens down at turn 15. That's one of the places you go a little bit too deep, and then you just kind of understand, just go straight off. It's just not enough.
Okay, well, Sean Thong has sort of decided to come into the pits, but I think that's because he ended up pit in.
It was a one-way.
When he came out of the gravel, and yes, and he couldn't rejoin the track. Let's take a look. So the two Audis coming up the back straight, and really at that point you'd say that Sean Thong is far enough ahead. He's 2 car lengths clear or so from Sandy Stuvik, but he's looking at his mirrors at that point, isn't he? He's missed his point.
Yeah,
entirely.
and you know what? Yeah, I don't know if he's touched the green, and I don't know what's happened, but he went. Oh, if we had another angle there, there would have been. It looked like he'd gone a little bit on the green. I don't know if he had lost grip all of a sudden and had just gone off. It looked like he'd just gone really wide over there, which is I mean, it's a bit of a strange place, but it just, It
is. He wasn't under. There'll be many times to be under much more pressure into that corner. I think
absolutely.
He just momentarily double-checked, a safety check, really, just check he's not driving up the inside. No, he is. Oh, good grief, I've gone too far. Now, he's having a pit stop, but we need to bring something into the mix when the cars that haven't had problems come for their pit stops, when, as you described them, the gates of hell, I do love that phrase, rather than we call it the pit window being open. 3 cars, the top 3 in yesterday's race, get a pit stop penalty for their success.
Okay, we're just looking at Sean Thong's car now. I'm seeing what's going on now with the issue. There's even the brake issue because they've taken the rear right off. I'm not quite sure what is going on because the mechanics there checking up on that licorice packet of a car, the Audi
that will stick as
LMS
well,
R8. And we go back to our screens right now there. We've got Foster, Harker, Jafar, and we're still waiting for Harker to make that move. But you know, it's early. It's early. I mean, right now, you just want to keep it on the circuit. No drama. I mean, it doesn't look like he's outpacing him in terms of speed. They're about the same, and that's probably why he can't get past him right now.
Yeah, he's aware if it was a 20-minute sprint, diving up the inside might be a possibility. But you know, he doesn't want to say to Sessiowan when he walked back holding the steering wheel, sorry, that's all I can give you, instead of the car at the pit stop. Just going back, I just started the point about pit stop penalties, success penalties. That means yesterday's winning car will have to be stationary for an extra 15 seconds in its pit stop. So that's the 99 Mercedes. That's the one at the moment we're looking at in second place with Nick Foster. So before it gets going with Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, all the work is done. They have to stay there for another 15 seconds. The car that was second yesterday, that's car number 11, which is the one leading the race with Earl Bamber, will have an extra 10 seconds. And then the car that was third, the number 8 Porsche, that has been driven very well by Reid Harker, an extra 5 seconds. So that could suddenly put Jasmine Jafar in the 888 that doesn't have any extra pit stop penalty to serve. That's a gift.
A little bit of a boost. Oh, and look at that. He's gone a little bit too wide there, Nick Foster, perhaps feeling a little bit of pressure to keep that pace up. Just looking at his times there, he hasn't had anything, he hasn't had any green on the board for a while there, so it looks like the tyres are settled in. They're not going to be outrunning on the pace. Though we do see there with Bamber, they're having set fastest in his speed trap for his car there, 235.8. But Nick Foster there, yeah, really making use that full width of the circuit. See, he's going off. I think his tyres, I wonder if he's pushed too hard and his tyres are starting to go there on the rear, because he's sliding and he doesn't have much grip. So a little bit of a struggle street. So we'll see that for another lap or so and see if that's the case. Because
well, it's been for a good half lap or so, maybe a lap now. No, well picked out, but he's really happy to work that car. So clearly, whatever they tried to change on it overnight hasn't quite produced the sweet racer. But the Mercedes AMG is a car that, when it was introduced to GT3, it was quite different to the previous AMG model, and it was a really comfortable car for drivers to drive, not just the pros but the less experienced drivers. But right now it's looking as though a less experienced driver would not be enjoying that. It's looking like a real handful, but there is an element of history repeating itself. Yesterday the Agibo Racing Ferrari that today is running down in 6th position, all near challenge from Reid Harker. He's looking, but I think he's just got to constantly do that and push even harder, because clearly he's seeing that his car's got handling, sensing that Nick Foster's really struggling. But yesterday we had the Ferrari pulling clear by a dozen seconds by the pit window opening, but today a similar element. Earl Bamber is already 6.5 seconds clear at the front field and just putting in fastest laps of the race by about 3/4 of a second. So that's what you do.
Absolutely. You know what? I mean, it's so interesting to see the setups of the cars. I mean, just even looking at the difference between the Porsche and the Mercedes AMG GT3. Every time it brakes really hard, the Porsche GT3R, you can see the wing just vibrating as the downforce gets onto it as it turns. But as we know, the Porsches, they're king of the cars when it comes to the turns and to the braking. I think right now Foster's going to be in trouble. I think Harker it's gonna be next couple of laps that he's really gonna pick up, unless Foster had just worked up a little bit their anxiety and had just made a couple of mistakes, because that's what happens. But this is the great opportunity for Harker right now. He's just gonna sit on the back of him and wait for Foster to make that mistake.
Yeah, Jasmine Jafar running third in the 888 Mercedes that started from second. Again, a poor start from the driver, second on the grid. He is the one that doesn't have any pit stop penalties to serve. He's 8 seconds down on the race leading car, which will have to serve an extra 10 seconds at a pit stop. So by the time Earl Bamber's stretched that a bit more, it won't, but it certainly should jump him up the order to second or third position. So Jasmine Jafar will know that, and the other person who will know that very well is Abu Bakr, sitting in the pit lane. So a little bit of an advantage coming their way. Sandy Stuvik now settling down. In fact, he's starting to pick up his pace, but he's about a second or so down on the ultimate pace of those cars ahead. But he won the Audi battle when Shulton Thong departed stage left. And in the background of the shot there, you could just see Shogo Mitsuyama, not as quick in that Ferrari as his teammate, but look out for the second half of the race, because Naoki Yokomitsu, who started from pole yesterday in the 27 Ferrari, that's your number from the olden days, of course, for Ferrari fans, he was very quick indeed, didn't get pole by mistake and didn't stretch clear by a dozen seconds just by happenstance. So, this is a car that should swing back into the mix very nicely, providing they remember which the front wheels, which the rear. Now, let's take a look at the race vision powered by AWS VMAX speeds, similar to yesterday. And you know what? Which car's fastest? In a straight line, it's the Ferrari yet again. By quite a tidy margin, nearly 1.5 miles an hour over Reid Harker, the best of the Porsches. But look, we've got three makes of cars in the top 3 positions. So the Porsches and the Audi's pretty similar for top line speed. Where are the Mercedes on that map? They're running 2nd and 4th overall, but they're not out there. So not so good in a straight line, therefore their strengths lie elsewhere.
Absolutely, and that's why I think perhaps Foster is struggling just a little bit there out on the circuit as we continue to watch these guys see leads. I can see his rear end just slide out slightly there. You can see with the Mercedes. And it's super hot out there. It's a lot hotter than yesterday, I think. So I think the track conditions, there's not going to be a lot of grip out there. I was just talking to the other series. There was no grip.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because actually yesterday's temperatures were slightly higher, degree higher air temperature, track temperature 3 degrees higher. Don't forget, it was later in the afternoon, more chance for that tarmac to keep on heating. I'm really interested here because I think Nick Foster's driving supremely well, because that car clearly is a handful and a bit more. Reid Harker looks much smoother at every corner. He turns in and he's decided where the car's going and it goes, whereas Nick Foster's turning in and adjusting and certainly it will be very hot indeed, will be the Australian when he gets out. And Jazeman Jaafar, yeah, I'd like to see him get a little bit closer. He's there or thereabouts, but it's stayed like this for a long time. The gap between second and third is just over half a second, then it's a second and a bit.
He just doesn't look as competitive, to be honest, like with this group here. I mean, unless these two slow each other down, Foster and Harker, 99 and 88, then I don't think there's going to be much of a game. But yes, it just seems.
Now, who's this guy? Haven't seen him for a while, have we?
We forgot about him.
He's supreme in the lead of the race. Earl Bamber. So
Earl,
every lap
look at him.
He's chalking up. His advantage the increment isn't as great as it was, but he's probably used the tyres quite hard. Doesn't need to. The gap is 8.2 seconds. Adrian De Silva, he'll be in the pits thinking I must. Well, he'll probably wait quite late, because what happened yesterday, the less experienced driver in each driver pairing started the race. And today, the more experienced and the faster ones started the race. So they're going to be deep into the gates of hell before they arrive in the pits.
More importantly, in the gates of hell, when all hell breaks loose, is that changeover. Because yesterday we had an incident where, I do believe, is it with the Japanese drivers?
Yes.
Where they had far beyond a minute 50, was it a minute 40?
It should be a minute, it should be 2 minutes 15, 135 seconds. They added another 1 minute 21 seconds.
Exactly, so even more.
There was a mistake between the front and the rear wheels, and that was just,
that cost them.
They're a small team, and it just simply, they will not do that again, because that will haunt them, because they could have been on the podium yesterday. And at the moment, while Shogo Mitsuyama is running down in 6th place, I can't just emphasise enough how quick his teammate Naoki Yokomitsu was in the first 2/3 of the race yesterday. So look for him coming through. And AMAC running up in 7th position overall, because after Sean Fong dived into the gravel and then the pit lane, he's down in last position. But Ben Porter driving that, and Andrew McPherson will take it over. Now the Ferrari, it's great to have it here. Wherever you race in the world, people like to watch Ferraris, and a lot of people, will come here thinking, I wish I could race a Ferrari, and maybe I shall. But it's still such an iconic mark around the world. Sometimes I pretend it isn't, but it is, isn't it?
It is. I mean, the fans always love the Ferraris. I mean, there's just something about it. The Italian flair of the car, the body. I mean, the sounds. I mean, honestly, when you hear this going off on the grid, it is as blisteringly noisy as it is hot down there. And that's why people love GT racing. You can hear the real, true sounds. There's nothing. You're not going to go to like the Formula One where it's a little bit dumbed down now. The sound. These are louder.
And if you're sad like me, you sometimes stand at the side if you're not commentating, and you close your eyes and try and pick them out. And Mercedes has that sort of basso profundo rumble. Now it's a rumble that's having to be worked very hard indeed, because certainly this battle for second place between the Australian driver Nick Foster and the New Zealand racer Reid Harker, this is the closest it's been now. And I think Reid Harker's thinking, I'd like to make the move before the pit stops. The pit window opens in just over 5 minutes. But again, he will probably not be coming in for nearly 15 minutes. In fact, I don't think any of these will. They'll all come in on the final lap they possibly can before the pit window closes. So, Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, little smile, I'm concentrating. You've got a camera in my face, and I'm trying to do one thing, and you're trying to pick me up on it. But there's his car, the 99 car, still hanging on to second place. But I think 2 wins out of 2 at Sepang is going to be a big ask today. And of course, they've got 15 seconds extra at the pit stop because they won yesterday. So success gives a slight smack on the back of the head and a punishment in some ways, but it balances up the racing. And it's certainly something all these crews will be thinking of.
And you know what? The cautious way, really, for these guys, they're not going to gain any other positions. If they know what their penalties are, for them going into the pit lane, other than leaving the pit lane the first, I don't think there's going to be much difference, really, if they one is overtaking the other right now. I mean, they're in for the long game, so
it's that balance, isn't it?
Exactly.
Risk.
I mean.
And there isn't a lot of point, but Reid Harker wants to put one out there. Now, I just heard a little rumble past the commentary box. Pit window isn't open, but Sean Fong's Audi back in the pit lane, so maybe he damaged it. It was an innocuous, if you will, run into the gravel there, but anytime you bounce a racing car across gravel, things can go where they're not supposed to go.
The drama continues with the Audis, who are having a little bit of bad luck this weekend, but
sometimes it happens, and you just have to live with it. Now, the thing that really is perplexing me is Jazeman Jaafar. is just not able to get onto the tail of this battling duo. And clearly, every time Reid Harker makes a little move up to challenge or to just pretend to challenge Nick Foster, that should slow both of them down.
Absolutely.
That should provide the opportunity. Just looking, what's the gap between first and second? Well, it's over 10 seconds. It's 10 and a half seconds now, but second to third between Foster and Harker, it's under half, well, it's just over half a second. And then it's 2 seconds now back to fourth place in Jasmine Jafar. Sandy Stuvik will be coming through another 7.5 seconds down. He's snapping very similar pace to Jasmine at the moment.
Yeah, and definitely the Bamba and Adrian De Silva. I mean, Adrian De Silva, he's a very steady driver. He knows what he's doing. He knows the car, bar from the bad start. And if you have a great changeover in the pit stop, I do think they're going to be on the podium. I think with that 10-second gap there, I mean, Adrian Silva, he's a strong driver in his own right. He knows he's not going to take, well, I hope not, any unnecessary risks. And he doesn't need to if he's going to have a steady drive. He just needs to go out there and start putting out those flying laps as soon as possible to make sure he creates that gap, because the rest of the drivers don't have as much experience behind them. But yeah, I think they're going to be great. Definitely for the top three, if all stays steady and sturdy with the ever-trusty Porsches.
Absolutely so. Now, the car that's most likely to come in to pit first will be the one that pitted last yesterday. That will be the one being handed over from Shogo Mitsuyama to his Ferrari teammate, to Naoki Yokomitsu. He's the only driver out there of today's starting drivers who's not as quick as his teammate. So expect the Ferrari to come in. That will come in first. It's running around in 6th place overall. It's down, next closest thing to half a minute on pace setter Earl Bamber. That's pretty much to be expected, but no success penalty. That immediately claws back a good handful of seconds, and then maybe Naoki Yokomitsu can stretch his legs from there. But certainly at the moment it looks though 6th place, he's out of it. No, he's got no success penalty. He's the quickest, potentially the quickest driver who's going to be there in the second half of the race. So that could change it. But 2nd, 3rd and 4th, this battle, Foster, Harker and Jafar, just is no change. It's time and again, close, but no move from Reid Harker. But the clock will still give them another 10 minutes or so. But at this point, it looks like Nick Foster is now a bit more on top of that Mercedes, would you say?
Yeah, it looks like he set it back down again. I haven't noticed the paces, obviously, because as the cars have been out there, the times have dropped by another second from 2:08 to 2:09. So definitely the tire wear, things are heating up, the pressures are increasing in the tires, the grip is losing, and these guys are just settled down. But I'd be surprised unless Foster made a mistake. I mean, since the windows are going to be opening, I definitely think it's just going to stay this way for a while. So nothing dramatic, too dramatic right now.
Trying to get into the mind of Reid Harker in that 3rd place, and he's thinking, I want to go, I want to have a go. But this is always the thing in a 2-driver GT race, you know, trying to explain to your teammate that your go wasn't quite good enough, and the other driver's not, your teammate's not getting a go. But you can sense that Reid Harker hasn't quite got that idea out of his head. He's still thinking, I want to have a little dive, and where are they loose? But again, you know, the Porsche just looking a little bit more fluid through the corners. But you also sort of feel that Reid Harker's not having to work as hard as Nick Foster in front of him, hanging on to that 99 Mercedes. But that's the one, of course, that has got to have an extra 15 seconds at the pit stop. So that will drop it down to 4th place, one would think, after the pit stop cycle has gone through.
Well, I mean, a lot of the times in these endurance races, it's just waiting for their mistake. I mean, we've got so many laps to go. You just need that one mistake from Foster, and then he just overtakes, and it's easy. It's easy then. And then because they're about the same pace, I mean, and then it's just going to continue from there, like, you know. So he's just got to sit still, just keep putting the pressure on him, you know. And there we have, Bamba. It's a dusty, barren road there for him.
It certainly is. He runs up to the final corner. You might be having to do some running because the pit window is open, and Earl Bamber stretching his lead. It will be about a dozen seconds. And the fast drivers, the front-running drivers, more than likely to be out there for about another 7 or 8 minutes, which will give Claire Jedrick time to get down to the pit lane. But it is a case of no change in that battle. Still the Ferrari fastest in a straight line. Still Earl Bamber fastest of all, and his lead, a bit like Naoki Yokomitsu yesterday, before the pit stops, about a dozen seconds clear. Let's have confirmation. Yes, it's now 12.6 seconds, the gap. So again, sitting very pretty. The number 11 Porsche will have an extra 10 seconds of pit stop. So everyone else getting their suits and boots on. Suits were already on, but the helmet's going on. Not what you really want to do when in a hot day here at Sepang. Get that helmet on. But the driver who ought to be hottest when he gets out will be Nick Foster. He's really had to work this 99 Mercedes, but he's just not left a chink of a gap there at all, has he?
No, you can see him taking the defensive line to make sure the Porsche doesn't get the inside line, but you can see the Porsche there absolutely trying to wait for that little gap and mistake there, as we see Foster keeping it wide, keeping the defensive line as we go there, turn 4 and 5. And we see there the Ferrari coming in now for their pit stop.
Yeah. Okay, Claire, there's your clue. And we knew you're not going to get down to pit exit before that Ferrari leaves, unless they have a nightmare like yesterday. But the Ferrari was always going to be the first one into the pit stop as soon as the pit window was open. Shogo Mitsuyama into the pits, already out of the car. Nice sleek pit stop, and let's hope the mechanics get the wheels that go on the back. And yesterday there was a slight confusion in the ones that should have been, I can't remember if it was front to rear or rear to front, but anyhow, that cost them a lot of time. They were an extra almost a minute and a half in the pit. That really hurt them, but just remember, though this car came in from 6th place, this is the car that yesterday was on pole position with the driver who'd just taken it over, and he, like today, before the pit stop, Earl Bamber was a dozen seconds clear. Ryoki Yokomitsu was also a dozen seconds clear before his pit stop. That looks more timely for the Ferrari crew. In fact, they've got it down on the deck, Yagibo Racing. They have to wait until the car can be flagged away. That's because they have to get to a minimum time in the pits of from pit in to pit out, with the pit stop being made in between in 135 seconds, 2 minutes 15 seconds, and I'm sure they've got that right today, and it should emerge on the track just in front of the race leader, Earl Bamber. I think we will maybe get a long shot and see it coming out. Still that battle for second place, still Nick Foster from Reid Harker, and I sense actually Jasmine Jafar has suddenly got a little bit closer, might have found half a second, even more than 2 seconds off their tail. Maybe still more than 2 seconds. Again, it's that long shot down from turn 1 for shortening. Oh yes, the gap as they get to turn 1, you can see it was larger than it looked when they were at the far end of the start-finish straight. So Reid Harker still in that 3rd position, thinking, I'm running out of time, I'm running out of options, and I just can't see anywhere that I can put the nose. There's a number 8 Porsche down the inside. So we've still got Porsche number 11 leading from the number 99 Mercedes, the second of the EBM Giga Racing Porsches in 3rd place, and the second of the 888 JMR Mercedes in 4th. But the difference is the 888 Mercedes in 4th place does not have extra time to serve in its pit stop. The 3 cars ahead of it all do. That could be a big factor. What I'm really going to be intrigued to see at this point in the race, with the Ferrari down to sort of last of the runners. In fact, it might still be just coming out. Yes, it is. Sean Fong's car, with its 2 pit visits, has spent much more time in the pits, so that will still be in last place. So Yokomitsu will come out into 7th place overall. All the cars in front of it will not have stopped, but if his pace could suddenly get down to lapping in around 2 minutes 7 seconds, then he's really in the ballpark to claw that back into the mix. Because like the 888 Mercedes, that has no extra time to serve in the pit stops. Pit stop was clean, much better than yesterday for Yagibo Racing, the Japanese new team in many ways, but also new to this championship. But yesterday they blotted their copybook in the pits. Don't expect them to do it twice. Earl Bamber on his way. In fact, the Ferrari came out behind him, but Earl Bamber's car will have an extra 10 seconds in its pit stop as it's handed over to Adrian De Silva. So where will it come out? The Ferrari's got to make up a lap and a little bit during that time, but those extra 10 seconds at a standstill in the pits, pushing the pit stop into out time to 145 seconds. Of course, those 10 seconds extra will seem like an eternity, and it could put the Ferrari into lead. Now, second place Nick Foster has had enough of the struggle, and he's coming in. So that was a really doughty drive to keep Reid Harker's Porsche behind him. Now, I'm sure 888 JMR will want to get 1 pit stop out of the way and then bring the sister car, Jasmine Jafar, in maybe next time around once this one has been dispatched. But the 888 car that, when it comes in, will not have any extra time to serve at the pit stop. Whereas this one, as yesterday's winner, will have to sit for not 10 seconds, 15 seconds extra in its pit stop, looking for the right place to swing in. There's the 888 JMR crew, Chris on the lollipop board, the stop board. And the second half of yesterday's winning combination, the driver who kicked off yesterday's race, but Jeffrey Ibrahim, can he make it 2 wins from 2? But I would say very little chance unless fortune favours the brave in this one, because simply those extra 15 seconds at a standstill will seem like an eternity. Jeffrey just being reminded to switch the driver ID switch to make sure that when he goes onto the circuit, it'll identify him as the driver, therefore no longer saying Nick Foster. Right, just waiting for that first flying lap from Naoki Yokomizo. 2 minutes, no, it hasn't come around yet. He's got to go a little further. And I want to see if he can get down into the 2 minutes. If he can start with a 2:09, a 2:08, 2:07, then he's in the ballpark to really close up from the 6th place in which that Ferrari was running before the pit stops. So Earl Bamber still got time to stay out, but if he doesn't come in enter pit lane before the clock at the top of the screen, you can see it counting down to just over 28 minutes. Once that gets down below 25 minutes, too bad, and there'll be a penalty. So his team will be keeping him well and truly informed of, he's probably got this lap and one, maybe this is the last lap that he will do before coming into the pits. With a lap time of 2 minutes, yes, it will have to be. But out of the pits comes the 91 Audi, driven twice into the pits by, 3 times into the pits by Sean Fong, but only once for a regular pit stop, and that will now be handed over to David Punn, who had a little bit of action yesterday that he didn't want to have, a little punt here or there, and the damage took the 91 Audi out of the race. And Reid Harker is in this time around. So Jasmine Jafar, Malaysian driver on home ground, promoted up into 2nd place on the track. Earl Bamber still leading this race by, well, it's now 18, nearly 19 seconds over Jasmine Jafar. Don't forget, Jasmine, before a few cars came in from in front of him, was running in 4th place. The car that was running 3rd is now at a standstill, now up on its jacks. And Setiawan Santoso, driver from Indonesia, comes into view, gets into the cockpit, and Reid Harker sort of reverses out, and the driver who gets out has to make sure the teammate is properly in the seat and help strap them into position. But again, with 135 seconds as the mandatory pit stop minimum, there's plenty of time for that, and add to which there's an extra 5 seconds because that number 8 Porsche came home yesterday in 3rd place overall. The AMAC Motorsport Porter's in the pit, so Ben Porter's run is done, and that should go out with Andrew McPherson shortly. But just remember, the number 8 car in from 3rd position, an extra 5 seconds at the pit stop for that one as success penalty. And there comes Ben Porter parking up, and the taller figure of Andrew McPherson walking out nice and gently onto the pit wall, onto the pit lane, doesn't have to rush. Ben Porter does have to rush to give as much time for the incoming driver, Andrew McPherson, to get on board. 2 cars still haven't visited the pits. The number 11 car of Earl Bamber leading the race comfortably, 18 and a bit seconds last time around over Jasmine Jafar, who's moved up to 2nd place from 4th, as 2 cars ahead of him have made their pit stops. Back on the track though, 99 ahead of 11. 11 though needs a pit stop. That's Earl Bamber, so he got right on the tail. The number 11 car, don't forget, an extra 10 seconds at a standstill as Earl hands it over to Adrian De Silva. The margin was 18.6 seconds, just waiting to check that Jasmine Jafar will be coming into the pit lane as well. Earl Bamber goes beneath my commentary position. Now, what's the pace? Okay, Naoki Yokomitsu, first driver to take over after the pit stops, the Yugibo Racing Ferrari. Coming through, and 2 minutes 8.8 seconds. Right, yesterday's winner was Nick Foster. He worked very hard indeed, and Claire Jedrick's caught up with him.
Was it just something to do with the car, or it looked like you were kind of sliding out a couple of laps, but you managed to keep Harper back?
Yeah, I don't know. At the start of the race, definitely, like, it didn't really feel, track temp didn't feel as bad, but then as soon as the race got started, it's like the sun just came blaring down. So yeah, we're just kind of sliding across both axles, can't really do much about it. So anyway, got a good start. Sort of, that's as much as I could try to do. I think the Porsches are just too fast. Like, yeah, Reid and Earl could just stop the thing and turn it, and yeah, we were on struggle street a little bit. But yeah, anyway, did what we needed to do. Unfortunately, we got the 15 seconds added after yesterday. So yeah, we'll just see what Eamon can do now, and yeah, go from there.
Thank you. Back to you, Bruce.
Thanks very much. There's another phrase to put into the logbook. We're on struggle street. I like that one. Very Australian phraseology there from Nick Foster. Well, it's only fair, he is Australian. Right, the top 2 into the pit lane now. Earl Bamber out of the number 11 Porsche, and that means Adrian De Silva will be getting on, and Jasmine Jafar out of the AAA Mercedes. But this one, as Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim gets ready to go out, doesn't have any time added to his pit stop. That should be a big helping hand. But the number 11 car did have the extra 10 seconds, but don't forget that was sitting on a lead of 18 seconds or so. That's invariably going to come out in front. So Adrian De Silva leaves the pits ahead of the 888 Mercedes. So success pit ballast has brought it back towards the 888 Mercedes. And what was 18 seconds looks more like about 8 seconds as they go back out, which is pretty fair since it was an extra 10 seconds. Let's do the maths. Overall time in the pits. See, you think, oh yes, well in fact, 888 JMR, no extra time penalty. They did exactly the right time in the pits, 1 minute 35 and 1 minute 46, which is 11 seconds more. So the number 11 Porsche actually they squandered a whole second there, but will that be enough to topple Adrian De Silva from possible victory? But Adrian, the Malaysian racer, delighted to be racing at home. 23 minutes still to defend the lead of this race. And then, when everybody is back on the track, we'll work out whether Naoki Yokomiso has picked up a position at all, as he's playing catch-up in the 27 Ferrari from Igibo Racing. Adrian De Silva taken over from race leader Earl Bamber, his teammate. Just remember that advantage was probably about 14 seconds or so, or 15 seconds ahead of what had been the battle for second place between the 99 Mercedes and the number 8 Porsche that was pushing so hard, but those have different drivers on board now, so things all are changing now. Some drivers, and in fact Nick Foster yesterday was remarkably quick. As soon as he got out of the pits, he didn't take any time to adjust the car, gain the position. But the job right now for Adrian De Silva is to not hit the curbs too hard, is to keep it clean, get himself settled in the car. But the beauty of knowing a track like this, where you can really get a fantastic flow if you've got good experience here, is something Adrian does. And so coming up the back straight out of turn 14 up to turn 15, it looks so he's on a sprint all on his own, not a car to be seen in that long straight around him. But where will they all slot in? What will be the gaps after the pit stops? I can make a note of these on my notepad, but certainly that was a really good helping hand from Earl Bamber. Started from pole position, wasn't troubled, and was immediately building up a lead. And it was very tidy indeed. So De Silva looks very comfortable in as the new race leader, and the order behind it should be the 888 Mercedes with Abu Bakr Ibrahim, and so it is. With just after pit stops, 9.7 seconds is the gap. So you can see how that came down, but it's a question how, however you look at Abu Bakr is quick in the car, but he's short on experience. This is where he's gaining experience. To do it on his home circuit here at Sepang would be a great pleasure, but you know what, he's not out there just to go around and try and finish second. He's going to hunt down and try and get up onto the tail. But let's hear from the driver who's street clear. He's a driver who's won Le Mans twice and he's been caught. His name is Earl Bamber.
Okay, we've actually got Harker with us, not Bamber. But Harker, that was an incredible race. I could see you're saying you're like a beetroot out there. It's incredibly hot, the temperatures out on circuit. It looked like you couldn't quite get into second position, but what's the strategy just to keep the car on circuit?
No, I would have liked to get by him, but there were strengths and weaknesses in different areas. The Mercedes has a bit better drive off the corner, and then we're better, under brake. So I was trying to get a run on him in some different places, but wasn't enough for me to be close to actually have a proper go. So, no point risking a big dive bomb up the inside. I know we have the advantage with the pit stop time, so just sat in behind him for the race and brought it in. Tier 1's, I think, doing a pretty solid job already out there, so hopefully we can bring it back home from the podium.
Brilliant, thank you, and good luck to the rest of the team, Harker. Thank you. Back to you, Bruce.
Thanks very much. That's Reid Harker explaining what life was like in that battle for second place. He wanted to have a go, but again, we were talking, Claire and I, earlier about the different performance. Even though these cars are performance balanced, they do have advantages at different places. Oh dear, insufficient pit stop time for both of the Audis and Team X work, so a stop and go for one extra penalty. That's not just stopping for one, it is stopping for 1 second, but it's more than adding 1 second to your time. So now the chase is on. Right, second place, Abu Bakr Ibrahim is being hunted down by Setiawan Santoso. So there was no pit stop penalty time added to the 888 crew, but because of that, the number 8 Porsche is behind it. It had been ahead, of course. That was a Porsche number 8 was running in third, and the 888 was running in fourth before the pit window opened. But now you can sense, let's look at their respective lap times last time around. There's a second and a bit advantage for the chasing Setiawan Santoso. I want to look back behind. Yasser Shahin has taken over the number 22 Audi, is in fourth place, but he's got a time penalty to serve because the pit stop was of an insufficient amount of time. It didn't go to the 1:35, minute 35. It went just a second short of that. So into the pit lane, stop for 1 second to give that second back and out again. That's cost you a lot of time. So unfortunately for the 22 Audi team, that's going to knock them back down the order. And the sister car, which is stone last in the hands of David Punn, that also will be knocked back. But having been 4 laps down with those 2 extra pit stops, that doesn't really make any difference. They're going to come last in this race, come what may. But who's going to win? Is it going to be Adrian De Silva? 11 seconds to the good. We've got 18 minutes on the clock. And last time around, good news for Adrian De Silva and good news for his teammate Earl Bamber. The car was faster than the 2 chasers. I'm looking down the order, the fastest driver out of the track. Well, I did sort of predict it. It's Naoki Yokomitsu in the number 27 Yagibo Racing Ferrari. At the moment, he's right on the tail of Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, yesterday's winner. No success penalty for him. Right, number 22 on our screens right now, the Yasser Shahin. He's got to come in and serve a stop and go. Stop for 1 second, that's all, and then get going again. But 4th place will not be theirs today. So Jeffrey Ibrahim's car, the 99 Mercedes, will move up to 4th place. Naoki Yokomitsu will move up to 5th. But Yokomitsu is right on the tail of Jeffrey Ibrahim. Need to find them around the track because the 99 Mercedes should be just in front of that 27 Ferrari. Or will it still be in front of Jeffrey Ibrahim's? In fact, I think we've had, just looking to see, I think we might have had a change of position. I think 27, yes, going through turn 12, has just got ahead of the 99 Mercedes. Into 13 they go, and onto the back straight. So not waiting for a second invitation. The Japanese racer, Naoki Yokomitsu, has moved up to what is 5th place, will become 4th when the 22 Audi in front of it has to serve its pit visit for its extra 1 second at the pit stop, 1 second stop and go. It could be a fanfare, but Abu Bakr Ibrahim is now closing on race lead in Adrian De Silva, but only by 1/10 of a second last time around. He's slightly pulling away. He's 1.3 seconds clear of Setiowan Santoso, so it's still the number 11 Porsche leading the way for Adrian De Silva. The car there, the multicoloured Audi 91, is stone last and has to serve insult to injury. After its 2 extra pit stop, it's got to serve a 4-second stop and go penalty. So big disappointment from David Punn, retired from yesterday's race. Sean Thong put the car off into the gravel when fighting over, I think it was for 5th place against the rival, well not rival, the teammate Audi 22. Went off at the last corner and reported the pit stop once but twice, and then they had the pit stop to serve. So they're stone last and they have to visit a 4th time. It's only supposed to be 1 pit stop in this race, but they'll have to visit a 4th time to serve their stop and go penalty. But with metronomic lap pace, Adrian De Silva is doing precisely what he needs to do. The clock at the top of the screen down to 16 minutes remaining in this race. His advantage is still over 11 seconds, even if it comes down to 10 point something seconds. This time around, this next time around, doesn't matter too much because at that rate of gain, there's no way that Abu Bakr Ibrahim can gain enough time to make it 2 Princes of Johor winning in 2 days. Or is there? But again, lap after lap, Adrian De Silva lapping very comfortably and very, very consistently. Interesting comments from Reid Harker and Nick Foster about just how hot it was out there. And I think it was Nick Foster who made the comment, it was hot on the grid, but the rate of gain as the clouds burnt away and more sun was hitting the track was remarkable. You could just feel the track just not performing for the drivers. Couldn't get their tyres to perform as is. Oh look, there we are, the last 2 laps. There's precious little between them in the gain. Right, 11 and a bit seconds to good. Adrian De Silva, 888 Mercedes coming around the final corner of this 15-turn lap. Let's see what the interval is this time. Is it north of it at 10 seconds? 10.3. So, in fact, last time around, 7/10 of a second gained by the younger of the Princes of Johor. So that is a good chase. He's now 2 seconds clear of Setiowan Santoso. I really thought the Setiowan might be able to set around and make it 2 Porsches in the top 2 positions, but 888 Mercedes being driven very, very well indeed by Abu Bakr Ibrahim. He's clearly looked, listened, learnt and watched intently as his brother Prince Jeffrey's been racing the Mercedes in recent years and putting it to very, very good effect. Prince Jeffrey, car 99, just turning into turn 1 ahead of the 91 Audi, which is really going around not enormously fast. In fact, last lap wasn't too bad at all from David Punn, but it looked a little slow there into turn 1. But 888 Mercedes certainly isn't slow, being driven very nicely indeed. In fact, fastest driver on the track last time around, with the exception of Naoki Yokomitsu. Naoki has got to gain 7 seconds, just under that, to catch up with Yasser Shahin for 4th place, but Yasser's got to serve a visit to the pits for a stop-and-go penalties. That really will scupper his chances. But right now, I think we can safely say that the race is settling down very nicely indeed, particularly if your name is Adrian De Silva, not just because you're racing on home ground, but you're leading on home ground. Ooh, a little bit of a twitch there from Setiawan Santosa. We saw the number 8 Porsche going for a spin at turn 2 yesterday with Setiawan at the wheel, but he just got it slightly wrong there, so his chase of Abu Bakr Ibrahim would have had a little bit of a setback there. That will give a bit more breathing space, and certainly Abu Bakr has been the faster of this pair for the last handful of laps. And Claire's back from the pits. It's almost fair to throw over to her, but we'll just let her change from one headset to another. But one of the questions I want to throw to you, Claire, is the drivers you spoke to, Nick Foster and Reid Harker, both just saying how trying to get tyre life is almost impossible today. It's getting hotter and hotter and less grippy.
You could see it as it came out the car, and him, I mean, it'd been like a couple of minutes ready, and Harker was still trying to catch his breath. Yeah, ridiculously hot out on circuit, and I think both of them, they were just struggling. And like Reid Harker said, if he had the opportunity, he would go, but to be safe, he wasn't just going to dive in. It wasn't worth it with the penalties, which is exactly what we were saying just now. But yeah, the temperature, 100% was definitely affecting their drive. And yeah, just a stability of the tyres out on track.
Yeah, well, I think you know, both of them have reason to be pleased. Those EBM Giga Racing Porsches clearly the pick of the pack in many ways, because one's leading, Adrian De Silva, and Reid Harker's got out of the number 8. Setiawan Santosa looks safe in that 3rd position. That would be a really great result for them, because Yasser Shahin behind has got a visit to the pits coming up. That will promote Naoki Yokomitsu, who's lapping faster than everybody else, lap after lap after lap in the Ferrari, but I think he's not going to get to the podium. I think that can only get up to 4th place when Yasser Shahin brings the 22 X-Works Audi into the pits. But you know, it's a case of what might have been for the Ferrari this weekend, I feel.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if we had another 15 minutes out on circuit, perhaps there is a possibility. But right now, I think in the next, how many laps are we looking at? 4.5 laps for, yeah, 4.5 to 5 laps, really. Definitely there's a chance for him to get up into 4th position if he carries on, if he can get like that 2nd a lap. I don't know what he was doing just now for each lap, but I mean, that's far away to be 1 second, so yeah. I don't think that's a possibility, but he's driving superbly right now. Couldn't get an interview with Shantong. I think probably a little bit upset with what's going on with the car.
I'm deeply disappointed. I expected an interview about each of the pit stops, because unfortunately for him, he had 3. He had first visit to the pits, second one to presumably rectify something else that occurred after the run through the gravel, then the 3rd one was the regular time. And you know what? It's got to come in another time, because they've got a time penalty. But when you're last, it's not going to make any difference.
No.
Where are things going to change? I think Adrian De Silva is doing a fantastic job leading this race, because he came out with, and I wrote it down somewhere, a margin of 9.7 seconds over the 888 Mercedes. He then gained a little bit more, and it's coming down, but only by tiny increments. In fact, last time around, you know, only 0.2 of a second. So he's just under 10 seconds clear. The clock has counted down to 10 minutes to go. So you've got to say he's set fair. Now, right behind him, Abu Bakr is comfortably just eking clear in that 2nd place. He's now 3 seconds and more over Setiawan Santosa. Yasser Shahin will have to bring the black Audi in for a pit visit, and the 91 Audi, the sister car, is coming in, hopefully simply to serve its drive-through penalty or stop-and-go penalty. That's got, I think, 4 or 5 seconds it's got to sit at a standstill in its pit box, and that is because of the transgression of going under the minimum pit stop time. It's something, you know, we watch races around the world and you go, how have you got it wrong? Because it's such a punishment. You gain a second and you throw away 30 seconds. Doing the maths on that is quite an easy equation. Don't get it wrong.
Well, I guess for these guys, car 91 pun there really is about sportsmanship and finishing the race. I mean, they're 5 laps down, so I mean, for them, this is really not going to do anything. It's just about carrying on, getting some of that data perhaps for the next race, and just carrying on.
It is, and it's about, you know, over the course of the winter, you can't really test in hot and humid conditions. You can be sure it's going to be hot and humid at Suzuka and Fuji as well, you know, Claire. So yes, it is just putting experience and knowledge and data into the bank. The sister car, the number 22 Audi, again being driven, you know, very nicely indeed by Yasser Shahin as he gets to grips with Malaysia's finest circuit, with the Sepang circuit, but that will also have to come into the pits, and that will drop it down when it serves its stop-and-go penalty to 5th place behind Naoki Yokomitsu, who lap after lap has been hunting it down. He's only 3 and a bit seconds in arrears, but when Yasser brings it in, the car that was started by Sandy Stuvik, it drops it down the order, and the Ferrari will go up to 4th place. But Adrian De Silva, 9 minutes and no change at all, still sitting on a lead. It doesn't matter if it comes down to 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 4 seconds. A win is going to be a win, so he can afford to back it off. But then you get that element. Do drivers make mistakes when they come down from 100%? The answer is yes, a lot of the time. So he should just keep going on. Now, in shot, Yasser Shahin leading not leading the race. He's running in 4th place overall, but Naoki Yokomitsu has been getting larger and larger in his mirrors. It was 3 and a bit seconds between them last time around. It might be just under 3 seconds now. But that 22 Audi does have to come into the pit lane to serve its stop and go penalty. 2 seconds flat. So yes, it's not, my eyes are not deceiving me, but Yokomitsu will only get as high as 4th place. Unless there's trouble, this is the bit that you like to throw into commentaries, unless there's trouble between now and the end of the race. But Adrian De Silva looking nice and smooth at the front. He's not under too much pressure. Yes, the leads come down from 11 seconds to 10 seconds to 9 seconds to 8.4 seconds. But look, 8 minutes left on the clock. He's got this one in the bag.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I know. Looking at the straight line speed as well, I mean, from 241.6, I mean, these guys are about 3 kilometers faster on the overall traps there for the speed traps, and I definitely think he can make it. I mean, the car's got pace, it's driven how it should be, and he's really pushing to the limit. He knows he's got a good chance, especially for points wise. This is going to be important for them, especially in the overall. But yeah, and
I think that is a really important point there. It's round 1 of 6. Don't squander a good result, and when we go to Japan, we're expecting the field to be 3 times the size of this. This is your golden opportunity. Drivers who may not get into the top 10, this is their opportunity. We've got 8 cars here. They can put some points in the bank. All the people who made the effort to come to Sepang will have an advantage, not just because they went to the first round. They went to the first round when there weren't many people there. But the decision was made. We needed to launch the championship. The championship has been launched, and gosh, it's good to be racing again. And all the people who've made the effort, who managed to get here, will have a sort of flying start ahead of those 4 double-header rounds in Japan. But the competition will be white hot when we go to Suzuka. So get the points now.
Well, definitely today. I mean, looking at the pace that we see from Abu Ibrahim and Santoso, they're keeping that pace. I don't think there's going to be any change there. I think there's going to be smiles today that Abu has made up from yesterday's. A little bit of a disastrous end result, which definitely was very disappointing. I think today can make up for that. This one place, I think, for Abu being fresh out on the scene, this is one place, if he's going to get a podium, this is the one place he'd want to get it, because it's going to get very difficult, I think, as more of the competitors come through for the rest of the season.
I have to take the hat that I'm not wearing off, because I think Abu Bakr, these are not easy cars to drive, GT3 cars. His experience is not long in cars, and here he is heading to 2nd place in an international race. Yes, it's on home ground on a circuit he knows, but I think it's a fantastic result. And you sometimes get so focused on the gaps between A and B, you forget that how long someone's been racing versus how someone's come onto the scene at 21 and is driving these difficult cars. And it's not just difficult cars, but it's on a circuit that the real pros are struggling with because there's so little grip, because the temperature is so high.
It's a technical circuit. I mean, Sepang's a technical circuit. You've got flowy turns, like your 4. You've got your big sweeping 3 to keep your grip. You've got 4 and 5, which is always, it's so easy to want to put a little bit more power, and I'll just tap a brake here and then run off and go straight. Turn 9, which is always very fun, going up here where you think it's an easy place to lose position and to mess up.
Okay, well, we've had a change of position. He hunted him down, and Naoki Yokomitsu has moved past Yasser Shahin, so he's up into 4th place overall. Now, straight line speed is important, and which is fastest? The Ferrari. Both drivers have set an identical speed. Shogo Mitsuyama, who started the race, and then Naoki Yokomitsu. But again, it's still 1 mile an hour faster than the rest, and that straight line speed is fantastic. Interesting hearing the Porsche versus Mercedes drivers about how the Mercedes driver have more punch out of the corners, but then the Porsche is just so well balanced, so what they don't get, they gain back in other ways. But yeah, there is Ferrari's supremacy, clear for all to see. But at the moment, the fastest, well, look, everybody was lapping apart from Naoki Yokomitsu, the 2-minute 10s. Fastest driver last time round, we were just talking about him. Abu on his home circuit, Abu Ibrahim, 2:09. That's very good at any point, but at this late stage in the race where the tyres are crying enough, drivers are probably crying enough, frankly, but it's hot out there. And if you watch, wherever you are in the world watching this, you would have no idea about the heat and humidity. There is plenty of both, I think we can say.
In fact, even just sitting here, even though I'm in the AC, I can feel it blazing through these UV windows. It's no joke out here. Malaysia is hot. I mean, these guys, they always talk about Formula One drivers losing the amount of water, but these guys in the GT cars, I mean, you're strapped in. It's bare essentials inside the car. It is a hot house in there. It's ridiculously hot.
But what you have to sort of counterbalance that with, okay, most of these drivers are doing about half an hour in the car. You think about some of the endurance races held around Asia through the summer months, hideous, because you could be doing a double stint, you'd be 2 hours in the car, so 4 times as much. And that is, yeah, you must start whatever you are, you must feel like a smaller version of yourself by the time you've got to the end of your stint, let alone the race. But talking of the race, Adrian De Silva, the clock is his friend. 3 minutes remaining in the race. The gap has come down from nearly 12 seconds to just under 6 last time around, but Adrian is neat and tidy. He knows this circuit, which is a real helping hand, and just doing a really, really good job. But you know what? If you're a Malaysian racing fan, you could possibly have a winner in Adrian De Silva, or you could have another Malaysian winner, of course, in one of the two princes of Johor racing here today. Abu Bakar Ibrahim closing in all the time on that number 11.
2 seconds though. I mean, I'm almost 2 seconds. We got a 2:09.845 for Abu Ibrahim and 2:11. So perhaps, you know, De Silva's let off gas just a little bit and is very comfortable and thought, you know what? But I mean, look, he's flashing the lights out there. So, you know, he feels like perhaps there's a possibility with like, is that a lap to go now? We're going down to the last, that's the last turn there.
See, that was youthful enthusiasm there, flashing lights. He's given away the
Love
stealth
it.
mode.
I love it.
It's out the window, he should be on the tail. But I think another 5 laps, and definitely Adrian De Silva is nursing this. He's not taking risks. That car looks beautifully balanced in here, but for Abu, you can imagine, well, there's half a chance. I'm going to hunt it down. What's the gap? 4.5 seconds now. He's gaining about 1.3 seconds a lap, but there isn't going to be enough time.
If you didn't go for
absolutely, and if you didn't do it on home ground, your brother went and won the race yesterday. You know, you've got sibling rivalry, it's a strong thing. So we have just squeaked onto the last lap. Had we been 20 seconds faster getting to this point, we would have another lap beyond. It's so many times, and in fact particularly on some long distance races on long circuits like the Nürburgring, we've got to do another lap. We haven't got enough fuel for another 14-mile lap, another 22 kilometres, but here it's 5.5 kilometres. It'll all be safe on fuel, he said, crossing his fingers and touching some wood. But this is the final lap, and certainly for the number 11 Porsche crew, that's looking very, very strong indeed for them. Adrian De Silva building on the lead that Earl Bamber built right from the outset, from the start of the race yesterday, this afternoon, and so it's looking very good. And their car came home second yesterday, but it's surely going to be victory today for the number 11 crew. Halfway round the final lap, slightly further, going out of turn 9 into turn 10 up to the top of the hill. Goes beautifully balanced there, sitting on a lead of 4.5 seconds, and despite the flashing of the headlights and the sheer desire to get up onto the tail of Adrian De Silva, I think Abu Bakar in his heart knows that he has done all he possibly can, and I think later he'll reflect on, you know, what a great performance it has been to come through to this second place. So Jasmine Jafar, this car of course didn't have any pit stop penalties. Jasmine knew that, wasn't prepared to take risks. 4th before the pit stops was fine. They were 2nd when they came out of the pit stops, and that's what's counted. So up towards the final corner for the final time, again flashing the lights, but look, anyone knows full well, even with the foreshortening, that's a lead that will be insurmountable.
Maybe he'll take a second too long and miss that last turn. You know, there's all that youthful, hopeful wishing for that last turn, but I think we're coming up here now to that finish, the start-finish line there with Adrian De Silva in car number 11 alongside with Earl Bamber taking that P1 position, and clearly right behind him, deservedly up on that second place in the podium, Abu Ibrahim in car 888.
And the number 8 Porsche made it a 1-3 for EBM Giga Racing, and Setiwan Santosa coming home suitably clear of Naoki Yokomitsu, who drove a brilliant second half of the race, as he did in the first half yesterday. Now, just a little message on the screen, just talked about the number 8 coming home in 3rd place, and Claire immediately pointed message, just come on the screen, car 8, that is Setiwan Santosa's car, and its driver at the first half of the race, Reid Harker, to port to race direction race director's office
But
after.
did he have
the
a
session.
penalty earlier? What did he have a drive-through? Like
No penalty seen earlier on. Maybe he's about to be punished for not trying to make a move for second place. It's a special thing for the championship. But no, we will find out. We won't guess at all. But just to run down the order at the end of the race. Victory to Adrian De Silva and Earl Bamber, who kicked it off. Second place to Jasmine Jafar, who started, and Prince Abu Bakar Ibrahim in that 888. Claire's running off towards the podium. Setiwan Santoso and Reid Harker at third place for now. And the winner in the Silver Cup class there in fourth place overall for Naoko Yokomitsu and Shogo Mitsuyama. So that's Silver Cup victory for them. And then actually just waiting for everybody else to come through. Yasser Shahin in the number 22. Audi in fifth place, the 99. Mercedes in sixth, the 51. Porsche, there it is, Andrew McPherson coming across the line. That will be victory in the AM class for them. And then unfortunately those extra pit stops for the 91 Audi, which eventually came in 4 times rather than the standard once, brings up the rear of the field. So victory, hard fought. Earl Bamber has done a lot of his Porsche racing here in Southeast Asia, particularly at Sepang. He started the race from pole position, and Adrian De Silva brought it home. In the end, 4.1 seconds the good. He nursed the car to the finish. He was super confident, super smooth, and will be delighted to have won on home ground. For now, the sister car, the number 8 EBM Giga Racing Porsche, is in third position. But that message saying that Reid Harker and the team manager need to report to the race director may yet affect the results. But top results for the number 11 Porsche from EBM Giga Racing. Great result from a driver short in experience, big on enthusiasm. And that's Abu Bakar Ibrahim on home ground. Second place, his brother Jeffrey Ibrahim won yesterday's race, but first and second for the two princes of Johor. That's pretty mighty collection on home ground. And Setiwan Santoso will be bringing the number 8 Porsche down to alongside the sister car very shortly to be greeted by Reid Harker. But Reid, who's in there, he's just walked across to congratulate Adrian De Silva, his teammate, does have to report to race control, so we'll keep an eye out for that. And lots of noise for the 888 Mercedes as it comes in. Jasmine Jafar started it, but 21-year-old Prince Abu Bakar Ibrahim, younger brother of Jeffrey Ibrahim, has brought it home in second place. He chased really hard and closed the gap from 11 seconds down to just over 4 at the end of the race, but a job very well done. Start of great things, perhaps, for the young prince. And Jasmine Jafar runs in and scoops him up in his arms, lifts him off the ground. Lots of cheering down there. Photographers all focusing their cameras, but that was an interesting race, a tactical race, of course, with the top 3 from yesterday having those extra seconds, 15, 10 and second respectively for first, second, third to serve at their pit stops. So that really changed the result, but there was no doubting the pace of the winning pair. Adrian De Silva, who brought it home, and Earl Bamber, who stretched his legs and stretched the advantage to 12 seconds before the pit stops and had it all under control. But I guess after a race like that, the thing we should do is head down to Claire Jedrick in the collection area in Parc Fermé, because she'll be catching up with the winners, Earl Bamber, who kicked it off, and Adrian De Silva, who was next in the ranks. Claire.
Winners of a race to Earl Bamber as well as Adrian De Silva. Adrian, fantastic drive. You kept it controlled out on circuit. Tell us, what does it mean, home circuit?
Oh, after 2 years, it's lovely. I really miss this track. 2 years not being here. It's phenomenal. Earl did a phenomenal job. Left me that gap. We had a longer pit stop than normal because of the penalty, but nevertheless, all I got to do is just bring the car home. Yeah.
And fantastic drive. You kept that distance ahead for Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, I knew he was doing a fantastic job. He's been doing a lot of hard work in Europe while we've all been closed up in Asia, and he's come back. You know, he got second in his qualifying group, and yeah, I knew we could definitely get a win. We overcame the additional time from finishing second yesterday, and I'm just really proud for him. After, you know, so many years and so much hard work to get a win in GT World Challenge Asia, it's awesome for him.
Congratulations, boys. Any last words, Adrian?
No, but for the fans, welcome back. Sepang is open again.
Thank you. Back to you, Bruce.
Thank you very much, Claire. Great sentiments there from co-winner Adrian De Silva on home ground, and Earl Bamber very smooth and gracious as well. But I think you're right, Adrian. It's great that racing is open again here at Sepang, and you can see the fans this weekend here enjoying the action in all the categories that have come here to race on this fantastic circuit. So let's take a look at the result. 4.1 seconds was the margin between Adrian De Silva and Abu Bakr Ibrahim at the end of the race. Earl Bamber and Jasmine Jafar, their partners in crime who started the race. And Setiwan Santoso bringing home the number 8 sister Porsche of the race-winning car after Reid Harker kicked it off. So let's take a look at the highlights. How did this result occur? It seems more than an hour ago. It was only an hour ago when the race kicked off, and a great grid of cars here lining up for the action. It was very hot on the grid. The drivers knew tyre life was going to be a massively difficult thing to keep sweet. But Earl Bamber, left of your screen, the number 11 Porsche, pulling clear at the start, and everybody else, like yesterday, fighting very hard. And again, like yesterday, the driver from second on the grid, this time the 888 Mercedes, not into second by the first corner. In fact, down to fourth place. Jasmine Jafar losing out. Around the outside went Reid Harker, but it was a long way round, and that allowed the driver kicking off the second of those Mercedes to slot into second place. And that was Nick Foster, yesterday's winning driver. Lots of action down the back of the field. Sandy Stuvik pushing very hard in the black Audi, but up front, as the lead was built by Earl Bamber, it was the 99 Mercedes Nick Foster hanging on because he was pushed very hard indeed by Reid Harker in the number 8 Porsche. In behind the 888 Mercedes, again Jasmine Jafar ruining the fact he'd made a weak start, and then a little mistake down at turn 15 between the two Audis, and Sean Thong maybe looking in his mirrors a little too long, off into the gravel. That would necessitate 2 extra pit stops, so change of position down there, and a little off-track moment out of turn 8. You can see how hard Nick Foster was pushing, complaining later that the tyre temperatures and the track just went soaring after the start of the race. The clouds moved away. Reid Harker had many a moment to take a look, but never quite enough. First car into the pits to make the pit stops as predicted was Shogo Mitsuyama, handing over the Gibo Racing Ferrari to his faster teammate Naoki Yokomitsu. Everybody else made their pit visits soon thereafter, but of course with the top 3 finishers from Saturday's race getting 15 seconds, 10 seconds and 5 seconds respectively added to their pit stop time, it made things difficult. But the lead that was handed to Adrian De Silva was nearly a dozen seconds, including the pit stop penalties. And that was the gap over the 888 Mercedes, and this was being pushed very hard in second place by Abu Bakr Ibrahim, and he started to close on the race leader, but not by a huge amount. The fastest driver on the track in the second half of the race was Naoki Yokomitsu in the Gibo Racing Ferrari. He was hunting up from 6th place, became 5th, and by the end of the race would rise to 4th. Andrew McPherson enjoying his second competitive run in the AMAC Porsche, but it really was all about the number 11 crew, and Adrian De Silva coasting home at the end to take victory on home ground by 4 seconds over another Malaysian driver, one of the 2 princes of Johor, Abu Bakr Ibrahim, and in the background Setiwan Santoso making it a 1-2 for the EBM Giga Racing Porsche. And you can see the delight down there, and all set fair. And now I think the podium in short order is ready, so let's hand over to Claire, who will lead the podium ceremony.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podium ceremony for race 2 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, powered by AWS at the Sepang International Circuit. And we welcome with applause the AM-class winner, Andrew McPherson and Ben Porter. Overall, in 3rd place, in car number 8, Setiwan Santosa and Reid Harker. In 2nd place, in 888, Abu Bakr Ibrahim and Jasmine Jafar. And in 1st place, Adrian De Silva in car 11 and Earl Bamber. And now we gladly invite Masahiko Ida-san, the founder of Dixel, to award the trophies. Okay, we'll just come together for a photo now. All right, and it's Sepang time!
Thank you very much indeed, Claire. Lots of happy faces up on the podium, and I think for Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim, he'll realise this was the start of his racing career in so many ways. A podium and an international race, and for everybody here at Sepang, it's been brilliant to have international racing back again after not 1 but 2 years without. We were all set to come here in 2020, and then the pandemic struck, but we are back, and the field is going to more than treble in size when we head to round 2 of this 6-race championship at Suzuka in the middle of July. So let's take a look at the points. Adrian De Silva and Earl Bamber, by dint of victory today, move to the top of the championship charts. 43 points. Then Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim and Nick Foster, sorry, that's Jeffrey Ibrahim and Nick Foster second, and then Reid Harker and Setiwan Santoso. So the points are clear at the end of the opening round, and we have set the championship fair for the rest of the season. It's been great here at Sepang. Thoroughly enjoyed being back in the racing world all over again. So, Sepang is now behind us. We haven't left the circuit yet, but already you can imagine the team's competitive folks and the drivers all looking ahead to what is following. After Sepang, we have a 2-month break, but then we go to a double header. Suzuka one weekend, 16th and 17th of July, and then Fuji Speedway just the next weekend, the 23rd and 24th of July. Those 2 Grand Prix circuits. Then Sugo, fantastic circuit, the north of Japan, 20th and 21st of August, and then Okayama International that held a Grand Prix back in 94 and 95 as the TI circuit. That's in the end of September, and then finally down to Indonesia, to Mandalika, to bring it to a conclusion. We're back racing again, Fanatec GT in Asia. It's great to be back, and I think the drivers who picked up the points today have got plenty to carry into the remainder of the season. So let's take a look back at race number 2, the second. One was yesterday, the second was today. And it was hot and humid down on the grid, and a very, very good start by Earl Bamber, the driver from second on the grid, unfortunately losing ground a little bit and fell back to 4th place. That was Jasmine Jafar, the treble 8 Mercedes. Up the inside came Nick Foster into 2nd place. The challenge around the outside, the second of the Porsches, but Reid Harker had to tuck into 3rd, so it was Mercedes in 2nd and 4th, Porsche in 1st and 3rd. The Ferrari pushing quite hard early on, lost out a little bit as Sean Thong moved up to 5th place. Drivers at this point trying to keep their cool, keep their calm, and certainly for Earl Bamber, he was clear. This was the battle for 2nd place. Nick Foster hanging on with the Mercedes that didn't want to handle too much at all. All the drivers finding the track temperatures soaring, getting higher and higher, hotter and hotter, and the tyre life therefore falling away. Now, good little battle between the 2 X-Works Audis, but unfortunately for Sean Thong in 91, he just braked a little bit too late into the final corner of the lap and ran through the gravel. That necessitated not 1 but 2 extra visits to the pits. And the story of the first half of the race, as Earl Bamber pulled ever further clear, was this battle, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and then eventually 2nd and 3rd as Jasmine Jafar just dropped back a little bit. But Reid Harker in the number 8 Porsche looked, he probed, he pushed, but just didn't want to take the risk of diving down the inside. First driver into the pits, the first one once the pit window opened, was Shogo Mitsuyama. He handed over the Ferrari to Naoki Yokomiza, who was bound to make up ground. Then everyone else waited pretty much until the pit window was about to close before they too dived into the pits, and even with an extra 10 seconds at a standstill, that's the success penalty for finishing 2nd in yesterday's opening race, Earl Bamber was able to hand over to Adrian De Silva with the lead of about a dozen seconds. It came down bit by bit, but never going to be quite enough for Abu Bakr, who pushed on and would go close down to just 4 seconds off the tail of De Silva. But De Silva was the winning Malaysian driver. The second driver home was the other Malaysian driver in that mix at the front end of the field. It was Abu Bakr, Amak Porsche this year. It used to be Lamborghinis, but it's now Porsches for AMAC Motorsport, and Andrew McPherson enjoying life. But the person enjoying it most of all was Adrian De Silva, coming through to take the end of the race, concluding the hour, taking victory for EBM Giga Racing. But for Abu Bakr, who followed home in second place, that will be a race to remember, and it made it a 1-3 for EBM Giga Racing. So a great result for the team. Earl Bamber there to welcome Adrian De Silva victory at Sepang. So we're all set. Next stop, 2 months' time in Japan at Suzuka. Goodbye.